Alan Hahn, MSG Network basketball analyst, reporter, joins us here on Big Board Sports 104.5 The Team. ESPN Radio, Humpty Canty with Dave Rothenberg also comes up right after our show here on Big Board Sports, Monday through Friday. Alan, Roger Weiland, Chris Honorado, good morning to you, my man.
How you doing, guys?
We're good, man. We're good. I know they interviewed a whole bunch of candidates for this next job and finally landed on David Fizdale. How is that fit for you with the Knicks?
Well, I think it's the guy that they were targeting. One of the names they were targeting from the beginning. They like a lot of things about him. What I really was taken back, what I took away from the press conference, a lot of the stuff actually didn't come from Fizdale. It came from Mills and Perry talking about the interview process and the fact that they talked to so many people, but not just the candidates, people that played for the candidates, people that had coached against the candidates, and kind of getting an idea of what they were about strategy-wise, how they handle players, all that stuff. Because it's important, guys, that they get this one right. This has been trying to count. I think this was the 9th press conference they've had for a head coach in 17 years. More press conferences for coaches than playoff appearances. You get to a point where there's popular names, there's names we all like, and then it's, how about just get the right guy? Mm-hmm. They've got to get somebody that lasts more than 3 years, which is the longest tenure of any coach in the last 17 years. So with Fizdale, you look at somebody that has connections to players. Players rave about him. Star players like LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Damian Lillard, anybody that's worked with him, that know him, they really like him. And I think that is very important. You got to get, these days, in today's NBA, you got to get your players to buy in. And if they look at a coach and they say, that's a guy I could play for, that certainly helps the Knicks. Because, while they're going to try to build through the draft, they will have cap space in 2019. And if you have a guy like this around, well, maybe you'll attract some talent, which is the only way you win in today's game.
Alan, was Mark Jackson ever a serious candidate?
I think he was. I know they interviewed him, and he was one of the first guys they sat down with. In fact, it was in the same trip. They were out in L.A. 2 weeks ago, and they interviewed Mark Jackson and Fizdale on the same trip. They also interviewed Mike Woodson as well on that trip. So I think they took him very seriously. And something that happened yesterday also was, because I was somebody that really would have loved to have seen Mark Jackson get the job. And Fizdale said something yesterday about his relationship with Marc Gasol and how forthcoming he was, and he said, look, I screwed up. That's on me. I have to own that, and I have to be better. I have to get my players to buy in. That's your job as a coach. I failed at that. I had to learn from it and move forward. And you felt like, okay, he owned it. That's pretty impressive, especially when you're introduced as a head coach. You don't want to talk about things you did wrong. You only want to talk about things you're going to do. He actually went back and said, yeah, you know what? That was on me. I found that to be impressive, and with Mark Jackson, obviously there was a litany of complaints about him at Golden State. With all the success he had in building the foundation of that team, there were also complaints about things that he did with that team. And I wonder in the interview if he was just as forthcoming as Fizdale was, and if he wasn't, what would you do, right? If Fizdale was forthcoming and admitting he made mistakes and Jackson wasn't, which way would you go? So I really wish I knew what happened in that interview to why Fizdale stood out and Jackson didn't, because they both have really good personalities and they both have a pretty good track record.
Alan Hahn with us here on Big Board Sports 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio. Check him out on Twitter, simply at Alan Hahn. And Alan, I loved your take on the exchange between Shaq and Charles Barkley last night on TNT. and Fizdale's comments came before any of that happened. So obviously Fizz gets it that this is a players' league and coaches need to adapt to that. I know it's early here, but how will a guy like Kristaps Porzingis relate to David Fizdale and vice versa?
Well, first, on that point you just made, the first point, and it's also kind of telling, too, when you consider recent Knicks coaching, recent Knicks history. Phil Jackson, did he relate with today's players? Not at all. You could see that. It was his way or the highway. He was very gruff about things, forcing people to play his system and all, and that was a problem. They were losing the interest around the league from players. When Derek Fisher saw that and tried to change things, Derek Fisher got fired. Jeff Hornacek, also an old school Jerry Sloan kind of coach, and as much as he, you would see he would defend his players as an old time coach would, and he was pretty good out of timeouts. Hornacek, you could see, just didn't have a close relationship to his players. You could just see it. Old school style mentality of coaching, and today it's look, it's just the way it is. You've got to be able to connect the players. You got to get players to buy in to the way you coach and your message, and that's very important. And that leads me to Porzingis, because the first thing that Fizdale said he wants to do is now go to Latvia. Now, he threw a first pitch at Yankee Stadium, by the way, and he actually made it didn't bounce. He didn't do anything bad. So that's a good thing.
Not bad.
But that was the first thing he was going to do. But after that, I think he really intends to go to Latvia and meet with Porzingis. And I feel like that's where Jackson and Hornacek failed, because when KP walks out of the exit and doesn't go to an exit interview last season and leaves because he doesn't want to talk to anybody because he's not happy with the direction of the franchise. If I'm Phil Jackson or even if I'm Jeff Hornacek, I'm on a plane, I'm in Latvia already, I call him and say, yo, I'm in your city, I'm not leaving until you come meet me, so I'll wait for you.
Yep.
But that's how important you are to us, and that's how important you are to me. But instead, they were, let him go, he'll come back, he has no choice, and that's just not how you handle your players. So Fizdale is making that point to KP. You're important to me, I'm going to be important to you, so let's get to know each other. And I thought that was a great sign of also what he learned from the relationship or the mistakes he made with Gasol.
Is there any reason to believe, Alan, that this Knicks team will be any good anytime soon, honestly?
I hate that question because it's hard to answer, to be honest with you, because you know what? You look at it, no Porzingis for the majority of the season probably. I mean, at best, you can look at maybe December as a possible return, but I'm in no hurry to get him back. I want to make sure he's 100%. So if you don't have him, how good can you be?
Right.
Like you'll have to really overachieve. They'll have to really nail this draft pick. Of course, they're going to have to nail the draft pick, but maybe they play a little bit faster, a little bit different without a guy like KP out there. But they're going to have to upgrade the talent. They're going to have to get something out of Ntilikina and Moutier to convince me that they could be competitive enough that, they'll be around battling for a playoff spot when Porzingis is ready to return. That's going to take a lot. Might be another lottery season, but I'm always about progress. They say trust the process in Philly, and I'm like, trust the progress. Show me something that I can say, okay, there's progress. There's something you can actually believe in. So I might not judge this coming season on wins. I might judge it on progress. Are we seeing something different than we've seen in the past with these teams that have gotten off to good starts and then fizzle? So that's why it's hard for me to say, are they going to win anytime soon? I do think not this summer, but next summer could be a turning point with all the cap space they have, with now 3 lottery picks on the roster, healthy Porzingis, and we'll see a head coach that might be able to attract some talent.
Alan, you're in the thick of it. Is this Knicks franchise still a desirable place for free agents?
It wasn't. Not with Phil Jackson, not with the triangle. You could see it. You heard about it around the league. It went away fast. I think that's what Fizdale, again, is supposed to bring.
Okay.
It's supposed to be that guy that people want to play for. And I'll be curious to see, does Kyrie Irving sign an extension in Boston, or will he go to free agency? Remember, his dad's from New York. He's a Jersey guy. He did have the Knicks on his list. So if Kyrie Irving decides to go into free agency, the Knicks will have money and they'll be all in. If they don't have, if they really don't know what they're doing at point guard, Kawhi Leonard's another guy. What happens with him and his situation? So you keep an eye on stuff like that, and you think that you have a guy like Fizdale that everybody, you saw the tweets, you guys have seen it just like I have. Everybody around the league absolutely happy for him that he's got another opportunity. People that loved him when he was an assistant in Miami. So, okay, if he's that likable, then he should be able to attract some star players here.
Hey, maybe you get Carmelo Anthony back.
Come on.
I
think it's time for me to hang up now.
Well, he won't be in Oklahoma City. I can tell you that.
It sure sounds like they're like, hey, if he doesn't want to take that option, that's okay with us.
Yeah.
You can see they don't seem to mind at all.
The other thing, Alan, I got to ask is, Fizdale does seem, and of course all coaches can say it, but whether they actually enforce it, is maybe a guy who is going to preach defense, because only 19 times did the Knicks give up fewer than 100 points last season.
Yeah, it's a major issue. But, Hornacek also preached defense. You can talk about defense. It's a matter of getting players who actually want to play it. And I think that also comes with having athletes today. They just don't have enough athletes. You could say we're going to play good defense, and then you put a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr., who's 6'6", and you make him play the 3, and he's guarding guys that are 6'8" and athletic, and he's getting overwhelmed. So, you can say you want defense, Enes Kanter, who can rebound like crazy, but put him in a pick and roll, and he's nothing. He can't do it. I always say that sometimes Kanter looks like a toddler who got lost in the mall and he can't find his parents. Like he just starts spinning around like he doesn't know where to go. Like that, it's unfortunate, but that's kind of what happens. So it is more about your personnel than anything else. They've got to find more athletes. They've got to become more of that team. But, you have to also have a coach that's pushing defense as the priority. But he's not the first coach. We've gone through so many of these. It's funny. You're so skeptical. You're so almost apathetic. It's like I almost felt like the press conference should have been, "Hi, I'm David Fizdale. I got to go to work now," and just walk away because nobody. You're going to make promises. We've heard these promises. Let's just get to work and let's see if this thing, can actually happen. Put the rhetoric and actually, more action, less talking.
Alan Hahn, we enjoy your work. That's
Great
for
stuff.
sure, my man. Love having you on the show, and appreciate a few minutes on the new coach of the Knicks.
You got it, guys. Great to talk to you.
Thanks, Alan.
Alan.
Appreciate it.